Hey, friends, welcome to another edition of the show. Today we're talking to, all rise, please, honestly. We got to stand at attention. 23 years in the U.S. Army, rose to Command Sergeant Major. I think that's the highest rank, folks. I never served, but we are here to honor. He fought a $84 million bond that failed, lost it, and then he came back and won it. This guy's an overcomer. Dr. Gabriel Zamora, Commander Sergeant Major, U.S. Army, retired, just transitioned to Superintendent Emeritus at Fort Stockton ISD. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for the lovely intro. 25 and a half years of total service, 8 years active duty, and the rest of it in the Texas Army National Guard. I retired in December of 2023. So a lot of the time in education was dual, right? While I was serving and also here, I truly miss the soldiers.
Yeah.
The 9 units that I had throughout the state of Texas, about 1,000 of them. Those relationships are amazing. I still stay in touch with a whole ton of them. But education is now my main priority. And as you said, I'm in emeritus status. So we are transitioning. My number two, previously, my deputy superintendent, Mr. Gilray Madrid, is now superintendent. And as I mentioned to you earlier, in January of 2024, I spoke to my school board during our evaluation and contract. And I said, look, I won't accept a contract that I'm not willing to fulfill. So it's unnecessary. And I won't take an extension because when our scores come out in May of 2025, I know where we're going to be. So then the only way that I'll ask for an extension is if we don't achieve said mission. And we came out and scored where we knew we were going to. And that's an interesting story. I'll get into that a little bit later. Truly fantastic. The 4.5 years that I've been here in Fort Stockton ISD.
Let me pause you for a minute because most superintendents are going to give maybe a semester notice to their leave, but you gave 2 years 2 years notice with this understanding, this resolute understanding that I came here to fulfill a mission.
Mhm.
And I know at that time we're going to be at that point. I don't know that I've bumped into anybody doing the work, sir, that has had that much confidence and just resolute focus to that kind of mission. Wow.
The small school district that I ran outside of San Angelo for a total of 6 years was on the verge of shutting down. There were a 4 year improvement required district. In 2016, we became the first school district in Texas, public school district, to implement a 4 day school day. And with that came our optional fifth day where students could come and do little extracurricular type activities, but it wasn't a true attendance day. And it was gorgeous. I'm very proud of what we were able to do there, but it kind of was something I had. It's a tough pill to swallow for you to say that what you put in place here doesn't work everywhere. And I don't think that enough people actually look at that. There's too many people that, oh, look at me. I'm an A. I've done fantastic. I'm like, your demographics are perfect. You're in a getaway to destination district. And that's what my old district had become. We had so many students that wanted to come and join us. And so at that point in time, I said, look, if I'm truly going to try to solve some of the problems that we face in public ed, we're going to have to go to a district that isn't ideal, that where we can't just pick and choose who we're going to educate. And at the time, the districts that were open, I took a shot and I landed Fort Stockton, which was in a pretty bad spot. COVID and everything was taking place. But I want to say that every single campus, although the data was hidden, was an F. There's a possibility that one of them was a D in our A through F system. Of course, it was masked. And today, now here's and I don't know if we get off into this tangent or not. We're an F district currently, but here's the thing: we went into this understanding that what was going to happen. And when you look at our campuses, out of the campuses, I want to say that four of them are currently at the highest performance levels that they've ever had. You see, so there's a very different story. And we partnered with a virtual school, and I informed my school board, look, if we do this, we will fail. However, while other districts are financially struggling and in deficits in the state of Texas, we're going to make millions of dollars that we can implement directly here into Fort Stockton. And so it functioned. We went 2 years and made millions of dollars. Started a scholarship foundation for
Wow.
each of our graduating seniors. They can all earn $5,000. Just to finish and do what you're supposed to do, anyways.
So
So
let's talk about your soldiers in the field that are looking at this new LinkedIn profile, boss, going, what is this emeritus? What is this all about? Help me understand, because I think this is an interesting twist on what also is possible,
Mhm.
because succession planning is a real thing. There are a lot of districts that just get this altogether wrong. They hire a search firm that thinks that they're going to go about this the correct way, but they have a job to do. And once that person has the keys, job is done.
Uh,
Let's talk about how important and how intentional you are to this whole transition process.
I won't get started on executive search firms because that's a mess in
We're not sponsored by anybody.
however, with the 2.5 year notice that I essentially gave the school board here, uh, even before that time, it was a preparation and mentorship thing in place. When I arrived here, there was one assistant superintendent. At our high point, we were at four. See, but all of that was in preparation for preparing everybody to take the next step. And that is a military thing. You're supposed to prepare the soldiers underneath you to take your spot. And if you're a younger soldier, you're supposed to prepare for the spot right above you and the one after that. And so we do what we would call a left seat, right seat. We're driving and this is how it's going. And so as I approach the end of my contract, which would be June 30th of 2026, my board was kind enough to grant me all of my leave at the end of that if I'm still here. In discussions with them, we talked about a proper transition. They opted to go internal, which is what districts typically do when they're happy with the programs that have been put in place and want to continue with them.
Right, right.
So it's been a blessing. We have great leadership here, and we really have exceeded expectations in every area. When I talked about adding money to fund balance, the district was already pretty sound, had about 30 or so million dollars sitting just in the coffers for that rainy day, and we've increased that approximately 60%. So we're talking about $25 million that we've added to that while spending and investing in our campuses, our infrastructure, logistics, and of course our students at higher levels than ever. So it is possible, it can be done. And one of the things that I'm most proud of here, I told you in the first year when we analyzed and I broke down what it is that was taking place, is our pay system, which I think is eventually going to have to be adopted by most school districts in the state of Texas and probably the country.
I wanna get into the pay system. I think that's really, really important, but I wanna unpack this story, because my guess is you have always been a winner in life and all things leadership, but you took one on the chin. You went out May, I don't know, was it 2022 for a
Mhm.
bond? And your community, you thought you were ahead. I'm not sure who your football team is, but going into the fourth quarter, and you got enough points on the board, you kind of put in a different kind of offense. But you didn't win. I mean, votes came in, you lost that election.
That is
Um,
correct.
walk me through that, because there's a comeback story, and most districts are going to take another 2 to 3 years to set. No, no, no. You came right back, probably as quickly as the law would allow you, and
Mhm.
said, "We're coming back. We're coming back," with a pretty clear message from the superintendent of schools to say, "Wake up, folks."
That's the letter. The title was "Wake Up Fort Stockton," and I think a lot of people thought that that was going to lead to me being fired. And I did have some people from the community that came and spoke to me personally because what I wrote in the letter. And the thing is that in May of 2022, it should have been a no-brainer because we were lowering taxes. We weren't increasing them. Most districts are not in that blessed situation. And demographically, we have some challenges because of the oil and the natural resources in West Texas. When it comes to the financial aspect, we have advantages. And there are about 220 districts in the state of Texas that send more money back than they actually receive from the state. And we were one of them. And I say were because the virtual school has changed that.
Okay.
But we failed to pass those bonds despite putting out all the information and having conducted all of the necessary needs assessments and put it out publicly. And it was extremely important that the district succeed in pushing for those improvements. A lot of our facilities were aging and needed a lot of work. And we came back after that letter in November. And at that time, I basically told the school board, look, passing this bond is more important than having me. And if we go for it again, and fail, then maybe I'm not the right person for you. I said, but we have to go for it because now more than ever, our people were talking about it. That letter that I wrote was a catalyst. You know, people who weren't paying attention all of a sudden paid attention because the negative side of the community brought it forth. They're like, look at what this guy said. And our people start looking at the letter and they read it. It's in the newspaper, it's everywhere circulating. And all of a sudden, people are saying, well, he's kind of right. I mean, he's not wrong about this thing. So we come back in November and we had a
Brilliant,
landslide victory. I think we won by
brilliant.
67% of the vote. And here, this last election, this November, we passed a VATER, a voter approved tax rate election, and another bond. So, total, in the time that I've been here, the VATER, of course, brings us additional money with the golden pennies in Texas. But we have 100 and almost 11 million in bonds that we've passed. And here is the difference between most other districts in the state and us. We are now at the lowest tax rate than we've ever been. We made a promise that we'd never go to a dollar higher than a dollar three. I believe that this coming year we're finally going to go underneath a dollar. So most districts have to increase what they're taxing, and that's what was so important is getting our community to understand that we have to take advantage of our situation.
Wow. Yeah, the credibility that you just bring to this space to go, no, 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 I'm leading this thing. I'm parenting, if you will, this organization, and I don't think you heard me correctly. So we're coming back again with just focus and that confidence to say, I you have to trust me here. And then you pulled that off, and my guess is the new guy coming in is just going to have 10x trust from the community because of that foundation that you built. One of the things that I was told early, as a high school principal and then as a school superintendent, is there's two things you don't mess with. You don't mess with the employee's lunch bucket, right, or their pay scale.
Mhm.
Hmm. But we're not going to talk about lunch buckets here, but I want to hear about what you have done to disrupt the pay scale system with, again, resolute attention to let's just do the right thing for the right reasons for the right people.
For those of you wondering, yes, this is a Big Lebowski Pendleton that I'm wearing. So I'm going to go back to university. When I got out of the active duty service, my mother, who is an immigrant, married my father from Mexico, and she wanted for one of us to earn a college degree. And I said, look, you know what? I'm going to go do this, and then I'm going to go work for Raytheon or one of the other contractor things, just for you, mom. I got my bachelor's degree in 2.5 years, and I specifically remember the university is telling, especially the coaches in the coaching world, don't go and get a math or an English certification. Get something where you can be in a classroom and not impact testing. Get special ed, get art, get social studies. And I think that that's bad advice because some of the best teachers that we have are actually coaches. They have respect that some of the other teachers don't. The command, typically, they were leaders in high school, at the college level, et cetera. And when I came here to Fort Stockton, as I was breaking down what was taking place, one of the things that I found is that some of our own people from Fort Stockton that were in education had somehow found ways of getting away from the most important areas, at least in the state of Texas, because our accountability system is almost 100% based on math, English, a couple of science, and I think two social studies courses. So those 21 different exams basically dictate what's most important. Although there isn't a book that will say this, this is what's taking place. And what I saw is that people who had gone to college to get English degrees or math certifications were teaching art or they were doing PE. I'm like, why is this happening? And the reason is because they figured out that the extra 1,000 or $2,000 stipend they received to teach math wasn't worth the heartache. Because at the end of the year, if you only had 65% of your students that succeeded on the test, you were looked at as a failure.
Right,
And why I'm gonna go back to the art teacher. Everybody loves the art teacher. The art teacher
right,
never
right.
gets old. They're how old are you? I'm 58, and they look like they're 38. because they love what they do. The kids love them. And it's one of those things. But when you have someone who specifically went to school for math, and now they're teaching theater arts. Why did that happen? And I think it took place because they realized I need to take care of myself. It's human nature to kind of take the easiest path. And so that opened up my mind to what it is that was going to be necessary. We needed to give those people and everyone for that matter a reason to walk into the fire, to go and take that algebra one bull by the horns and say,
Yeah.
"Yes, I can do this." And a $3,000 stipend wasn't going to get it done. Today, the difference between our zone teacher, which is at the top of our pyramid, and someone who's just a certified teacher is approximately 30,000. You can be at 91,000 or you can be at 61,000. That's for a 0 year fully certified teacher. And that's not counting our teacher incentive allotment that the state of Texas has put in place, because we do have teachers here in Fort Stockton now, because we're currently in our 4th year of implementing this system, that are making 120 plus. And that isn't something that was possible in the state of Texas. And the way we had to do it was distributing the same pie that everybody has, but in different portions,
Mm.
right? Saying, look, you get to eat a little bit more because you're teaching that algebra one or that English two at the high school. And I'm sorry, I wish that we could pay the art teacher the 91,000 starting also. But if we could, we're back to the same place.
It's all about choices.
Mhm.
If you're making choices that are best for students because your mission requires that, you have to, like you said, walk into the fire and just admit that this is going to sting for a while, and you're going to have to change some of the rules because the system is absolutely broken. Like you've I think alluded to, yeah, just cutting the sandwich into all equal parts and then expecting students to be learning, at the highest level. That's just, it doesn't work that way. Results based cultures demand that you do things within a results based structure, right? So the fact that you kind of blew this thing up, I'm wondering, how did that impact the students? You've had 4 years now to pay attention
Mhm.
to the return on that disruption, if you will.
Well, typically, Fort Stockton ISD was somewhere near the bottom of Region 18 and how they performed overall. And this last time, take away the virtual students, and there were about, I think, maybe 6 school districts that actually outperformed us, and not a single one of them has over 400 kids. A matter of fact, a couple of them are 100, or 200 students. And we're not a massive district. We run around 2,200 students, but we are 10, 15 times the size of some of those other districts
Right, right.
in a very different scenario. And for instance, our high school this last year achieved an 88, the highest score that they've ever had in A through F history. And the districts that we beat out, that we outperformed, are many. And the ones that I think one of them comes to mind that we tied is kind of a destination district, right? I'm moving away from the Midland area into a more affluent area. So we're not supposed to be able to outperform them, and yet we have. And I think key to that is having the best people, the best teachers in the right classrooms.
Amen.
And some of those were counselors. Some of them were administrators that said, I'd have never left the classroom if I knew I could make this type of money. And
Isn't
so
that so true?
yeah, they've gone back
You're
into
making the dream come true, sir. I seriously, I've always thought, why wouldn't we have school districts that have the highest paid people actually straight up working with students? I mean, it's no longer the illusion. You've made it the ideal.
Well, everybody seems to understand that when it comes to athletics, and it's unfortunate, right? We see it, and they're like, "Hey, well, why is the UT head coach getting millions and millions and millions of dollars?" Because he's a head football coach, and it generates money. So obviously, he's in an important role based off of people's perceptions. We're just doing that in our world, right? And what I hope is that it starts this whole pay it forward kind of chain
Yeah.
letter effect, because we've stolen teachers from all over the state and even from other states just because of what it is that we're compensating. Of course, we had to deal with some of the internal grumblings of, well, this isn't fair. Why are they making so much money than me? And I'm like, because we have to change I mean, we need a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And universities need to stop with what I mentioned earlier about, well, don't go into this room. No, they need to tell our younger students that are in college, you do what you love, and that's fantastic. But what you love may not bring the same type of bread that this other area is. So what is it that you love? Do you would you prefer to start at 91,000 or at 61,000? By the way, our pyramid, the graph that I created to kind of make it easier for people to understand, underneath certified teacher is uncertified teacher that they get paid less. I want to say start at 50. And then underneath that, at the foundation are our at will personnel. So it doesn't matter if you're a custodian, secretary, anything. We've actually had a nurse that transitioned into being a teacher. Now, here's the thing: we will grant every single year that you worked at the district towards the zone scale, which is at the top, right? And so we've had, I think, at this point, we're up to four of our non-certified people who were just at will that have already risen all the way to the top because they went back to school or they jumped online and got a bachelor's degree.
Right, right.
And those are the type of people that are hungry. Those are the type of people that we want in the
Isn't
classroom.
that what we're looking for? Not just
Exactly.
smart. I want you smart and hungry and humble to
Mhm.
keep being the learner, right? That's so good, so good. I w w w We're nearing the point where I'm gonna call the local pizza joint and order a pizza because 'cause we're gonna just continue this, but I think we'll save that for round 2, Mr. Emeritus. I want to just let's get real. Let's just get real. I mean, you have these superhuman stories that you're talking about, but I want all the world to understand how human you really are. I do a little bit of a lightning round at the end of these interviews, and so I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we'll get to know the human behind this superhuman, right?
Great.
So, first thing that comes to mind, right? A quote that you live by.
In my office and even here at the house, I've always liked that movie, The Gray, where he goes back to and he says, um, "My father wrote it, and it's a four-line poem." And I'm gonna see if I can say it. It says,
Generalize it. Let's get the principle of it.
"Once more into the fray, into the last good fight I'll ever know. Live and die on this day. Live and die on this day."
Ah,
That's it. And
love
uh,
it.
and and to me, what it means is, you know what? Do everything with conviction, even if it means that it's the end. And it's a lovely movie. I'm not going to say it's the best, but that particular aspect of it really resonated with me.
Morning person or night owl? What are you?
I'm going to say both, but
Of course.
here recently I've been more of a morning person. Mhm.
Name, an educator or perhaps a military leader who really shaped you.
I'm going to lead with saying that sometimes some of the best teachers that I had were among the worst leaders that I ever worked for. You can always learn, and I learned exactly what not to do from some of those idiots. Pardon my language.
No, that's why I went into education myself.
But when it comes to spectacular leaders here in the state of Texas, I have a Command Sergeant Major Robert Nieto that kind of took me under his wing as a mentor. And when I was in the active duty, there was a gentleman I worked for whose name was Robert Akers. He was a first sergeant at the time, and both of them had a tremendous impact in my leadership style, and I learned a lot from both those gentlemen.
Deep honor. Deep
Mhm.
honor. Whataburger or In-N-Out?
Waterburger.
There it is.
Mhm.
Alright. Best decision you ever made as a superintendent?
That is an Oh, wow. Uh, I told my wife when I was at my old school district after 6 years there, I said, "I can stay here forever. I can retire here. I am perfectly happy. It doesn't matter that it's a smaller school district. They're treating us fantastic, and I can live with it." So, but what I can't live with is not taking the chance of going to a larger district where they have the challenges that I know can give me the opportunity to see if I can solve some of these problems. I'm a big time, not anymore, but when I was a kid and still to this day on occasion I'll throw down. I'm a big time chess player, and solving problems is something that I relish. And so I want to say that that's it, is choosing not to retire there. And at this point in time, is having the strength to give them 2.5 year notice and
Yeah.
say, look, it's time to put our family first. And if I can continue to be a soup, it'd be great. And if not, it's okay. I had a 10.5 year run. I'm working on a book that's going to detail some of these things. And more important to me now is getting close to our family.
A few more questions. One lesson every army or from the army that every superintendent needs.
Leaders eat last.
I believe it became a book, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so. That's just one of those things is even with our central office personnel, sometimes people don't know because everything is relative. They don't know that you're sitting on this ivory tower uh, because you just complain. You talk to each other and everything is relative. And I'm like, look, if you went down and saw what's happening in the classrooms, or if you, instead of being here in central office, were at a campus, maybe you'd understand. And people don't reflect enough. They don't they're not considerate enough, maybe empathetic. We're all blessed, and I know that I'm definitely blessed. Uh,
Yeah.
it's
It's a privilege, isn't it?
it is. It's an
To
honor.
serve.
It's
Yep.
an honor, and it's something that I don't know. I think too many people are about me, just about me, and if you can go through our social media here. Most of the time, when you hear about me, or throughout the 4.5 years that I was superintendent, it was because I was taking the blame for something.
Yeah.
Something didn't
Great
quite work
leaders
out,
do.
and you know what? I'm gonna eat it, and we're gonna fix it. Whenever we succeeded and did some fantastic things, and we're still doing them, it was our people. It was my people who got it to happen. So,
Best leaders look in the mirror when things go a little bit sideways, right?
mhm,
And they
yes,
look
sir.
out the window to give all the credit when things are going well. So you get that. A couple more questions. If you
Yes, sir.
weren't in education, boss,
Mhm.
what would you be doing?
Making a lot more money. That's for sure. So I almost feel I'm kind of Forrest Gumpish like. When I joined the military, a buddy and I joined together, and he's an attorney today in the Corpus Christi area. But we joined to be mechanics. And why? Because we're like, it'd be cool to learn to work on cars. And then from there, I transitioned into Patriot Missile, which is highly technical, and have gone through a couple of different. I worked in the oil field for a little bit, did the coaching, the teaching, of course, the administration, and then the whole soup thing. So there's been a litany of different positions that I've held throughout my time, and I always tell my wife, I'm like, I could be working on Patriot. I ended up with an arcade machine that was given to me because I went to purchase an old classic Street Fighter II Championship Edition, and the guy's like, "I'll sell you this other one for $50." I'm like, "I don't want it." And he says, "Look, what if you just take it for free because it doesn't work?" And my wife's like, "Why'd you take it? You know it's broken." I'm like, "I'm gonna fix it."
It's a challenge,
She's like,
right?
"How in the heck are you gonna
Yeah.
fix it?" And it took me about 40 minutes or so since I didn't have schematics. I had to trace everything manually. And when I did, pull out the circuit card that was fried and solder in the new diode and turned it on, she was just like, "What in the heck? How could you possibly do that?" I'm like, "Yeah." Said, "Before you and I were married, there was a time where I worked on things like this that were a heck of a lot more complicated than an arcade machine from the 80s."
Let's bring it back. One word for Fort Stockton, their future. One word or
Right,
short phrase. Say it
right.
again. Right.
Uh-huh. The
Yeah.
future looks bright. They will succeed, and I think I hung on here longer. I actually passed up some opportunities that were practically handed to me because I did not want for somebody to undo the pay system, since that graph is just a representation for people to kind of simply understand it, but there are all kinds of rules that are within it, and all of them have a purpose. And so I had to hang tight and say, look, I'm going to stay here a little longer than maybe I should, simply because I want to preserve this thing. And of course, it's going to be something that I talk about heavily in the book. Not the only thing, but one of them.
Last chapter in the book, would you do it again? Last question. Would you do it again? 10 and a half years as a superintendent.
Um, I have no doubt. I'm extremely proud of what we've been able to accomplish. the lives that we've changed, I would ask more people out there because there are some very bright administrators in the state of Texas. But you and I spoke off the record about the tendency of people wanting to move into the areas that are comfortable and prestigious. I don't want to go to a district that is struggling. I want to go to a district that's successful because I want to be known as a superintendent who continues to maintain a high B or an A. I challenge them to say, like, look, if you're really good, go do it somewhere where others are not going to be able to succeed.
Prove it.
Help us to improve education. I did my hardship tours, both in the military, having deployed twice, and then in education. And as I said, I chose to come to a district that was struggling because that's the only way that we're ever going to putting our best in the areas that need the most help is the only way that we're going to create things that will work everywhere. And the things that we've put in place here in Fort Stockton, because the pay system's one of them. Some of the other things, as far as scheduling, um, properly grouping students, all of those things play a role. And so that's why I say I challenge people to go to the districts that are struggling and
Yeah.
see if you can solve them.
I'm gonna have fun titling this podcast. It's honestly, you are so differentiated from so many of the other humans that we've had on the show, not to disparage anybody, but you are so well placed, Dr. Z, Command Sergeant Major. Yeah, it's just been an honor to spend some time with you today. And folks, I hope that you took a big, healthy gulp of what
Mhm.
we know. The world doesn't need any more leaders. I'm just telling you straight up. We need more leaders like this guy. So the mission matters more than our comforts. And that's what it's all about.
Thank
So
you. Those are
you
some
can
very
learn more about your district. Is it FSISD.net?
That's correct, yes,
Yeah,
or just search Fort Stockton ISD, and,
there it
that
is.
that graphic representation is in, as you search through and go through employment into compensation plan, that pyramid is there.
There.
We present, I say "we" because, my deputy superintendent, now superintendent, and I presented together in San Antonio, at SLI, and then I presented in Round Rock at TREA, and then in Salt Lake City here in October for NREA. And all of them were heavily attended. And people are hungry to find these types of solutions. I'm going to say it, it's difficult because you will face some resentment. There will be people, and some of them who are very valuable teachers, who say this isn't fair. But $61,000 starting is still better than most places in the state. 91,000 is just exceptional.
Let's go.
Mhm.
Sir, thank you for giving us the ability to see what is actually possible. We got a scoop. Peace, friends. Thanks for joining
Beautiful.
us
Many
today.
blessings.
All right.